Dive, 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 ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us for another wonderful, fun-filled episode of Talk Dive Live. Yes, we're here to talk about scuba snacks, where double dipping is not only suggested, but it is required. Yes, you can double dip on all of our scuba snacks. That is what we want you to do, and we do that on purpose. So thank you for joining us. Remember, we'd like to hear where you're calling in, signing in from. Go ahead, sign in, give a little chat to us. Let us know where you're signing in from. We've had people from Europe. We've had people from Alaska. We've had people from just down the street, and they didn't even want to wave and say hello. But we do want to hear from you. You may be seeing that I am sporting the Project Aware rash guard today. That's because I just did yet another Zoom with another 40 people on Project Aware. We held the Project Aware specialty. You too can be part of that if you'd like. Just go ahead and put it in a private chat. Take a look at our Facebook page. We will post more. We've got more to come. So thank you once again for joining us. I'd like to introduce you to our wonderful panel. We have our lovable and huggable David from at least a mile away now. Say hi there, David.
Hey, everybody. I'm delighted to be here and so thankful that you are all watching and participating with us.
Yes, thank you very much. And we've got our very own Kel, back by popular demand. Yes, we didn't think that he would surface again, but he has, folks. Hey there, Kel.
Is this thing on? Greetings. It is a delight to be back. Howdy, 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 all.
It's always nice to see you broadcasting from the public library. We know that you don't know how to read, so thank you very much. And we have our very own blank screen. Yes, this is going to be our mystery panelist. We don't know who it is. We actually really don't know who it is going to be, but there will be someone anon, maybe anonymous, but it will come soon enough. So thank you very much, folks. So what are we going to talk about today? Well, you know what? That was a very good question. We asked ourselves what we're going to talk about today. So I think we're going to be talking about some basic gear tips. We're going to be talking about some dive etiquette. Yes, folks. Dive etiquette. Do we lift our pinky when we drink from our water bottle or not? Dan from Houston or Hudson, Florida. Hey there, Dan. Thank you for joining us. And we're going to be telling a couple more stories about diving. Kelly Sharp. Hey there. How you doing, Kelly Sharp from Texas? Good to see you. We're going to share some more dive stories. We want to hear your dive stories. We really do. Not that many people have shared any pictures or videos lately. Why not? We need some scuba snacks from you too. So go ahead, sign in, let us hear your scuba snacks. But without further ado, or going on, can Nitrox course be done completely through e-learning? Yes, except for the two practicals that you do actually have to learn how to analyze a tank and then notate said tank. But that would take you about 15 to 20 minutes with an instructor, so we could actually do the Nitrox course online or send that to you. Go ahead and let you do the e-learning, and then when you get down here, when the pool is open again, we can certify you as Nitrox diver and get you in. So that's a very good point. Why don't we go ahead and talk to David? What kinds of other things might we need if we're going to be a Nitrox diver, David?
Well, hey.
Oh, we need to go back to our secret panelist. Yes, she's no longer a secret. Yes, the very own, a woman that is so wonderful, branded into the scuba world. She's actually been named after a scuba kit called Hollis. How you doing, Hollis?
I'm doing awesome, but I want to say, I think it was named after me. Just want to clear that up.
Chicken egg. Chicken egg.
No, thank you guys so much. Sorry, I had a little bit of trouble with my internet, but I'm back here now. Woohoo!
Thank you for hatching that egg there. All right, so we were going over to David to talk about what you might need with a Nitrox course or for a Nitrox course or just to be a Nitrox diver.
Well, if you want to be a Nitrox diver, I think the most important thing that you need is a computer that can Nitrox tables, and there are actually Nitrox tables for 32 and 36 mixes, but it is 2020. And most computers these days can handle air and nitrox, and many of them actually you don't even have to change it. On some of the older computers, you're either doing air or nitrox, you have to change the mix, but a lot of computers today will allow you to sort of press the air button if you're air and the nitrox button on you're on nitrox, and you can keep the nitrox mix as you normally would. If you're diving with us, you don't need your own analyzer because we have analyzers and we have the tanks, of course. So really, it's just getting that computer to make your to be able to take advantage of the additional time that nitrox affords.
Excellent. Excellent. As a matter of fact, almost caught you there. As a matter of fact, one of the tools that you can even use are, for instance, apps that you can download. This is an app that you can download to be able to actually calculate your MOD. That's short for MOD, which actually means maximum operating depth, which would be one of those things that you're going to learn how to do during your enriched air course. Wow, from Mumbai. Hello. Thank you for joining us, Elsie. So yes, it's one of those things that's a little bit more involved, and we're going to go to Hollis if she would like to chime in on other things that might be more involved with the Nitrox course and another benefit. And I know that she's probably going to talk about seeing some critters because she's going to get more bottom time.
Yeah, so I love nitrox. I like to dive it pretty much every time I dive, especially if you're going to be going on when you come down here, you'll go diving for multiple days, and then you really don't have to worry about that saturation as much. So definitely get your nitrox course at the beginning of your trip here, so that way you can get those nice bottom times the whole time. So I wanted to say one thing that's really important about nitrox. You're going to have a lot more time down there, and that's what I was grabbing. I was grabbing my bear, which we do sell here. So I really do like that because then I can stay nice and toasty when I'm down there, especially on the Spiegel and the Dwayne. Those are deeper wrecks, and then you'll be down there for an extra, 10 or 15 minutes if you can, and so you'll definitely get a little bit colder. And definitely, if you're down there, you'll see a lot more cool stuff. And so obviously, yeah. So that's all I gotta say. I'll pass it on.
Great, thank you. Yes, Nitrox is definitely one of the first courses that you want to get here at Rainbow Reef or anywhere that you're diving. So I said that we're going to talk a little bit also about dive etiquette. Now, one of my pet peeves is the proverbial mask on the forehead. Kel, would you like to talk to us a little bit about the mask on the forehead?
I would be delighted. Traditionally, as instructors, we were taught to teach that a mask on the forehead is the sign of a distressed diver. And you can't recognize a distressed diver from just a lazy diver. I don't know if I buy into that, but I think this mask on the forehead is the sign of a lazy instructor. Mask on the forehead can easily be lost from a wave, from another diver, just from bad positioning. So a mask on a head is a sign to me that a diver has not been trained appropriately. And no matter how Mike Nelson wore his during all the sea hunt days, and we all learned to do that in the early days, as David has already pointed out, it is 2020, and we don't go with those old habits. So masks on the forehead, to me, sign of a lazy instructor and an impending loss of a very expensive mask. So keep it off the forehead, please.
Oh, my stars. Yes, I would completely concur with you. And I even have one more for those instructors that are sitting there saying, Kel just called me lazy. How dare he? Well, the other thing is, when your mask is on your forehead, not only do you look like you're somebody who's in distress, not only do you look like Mike Nelson, not sure that's the case, but your forehead is actually heating up the mask. So when you put said mask that you have spit in several times to make sure it does not fog, it's fogged because it's been on your forehead. So rip the mask off. Keep it off your forehead. David, what might be... Yes, thank you. David, what might be another dive etiquette that you could share with our audience today?
So this one is actually specific to the way we run our dive operation at Rainbow Reef. We ask that people be geared up when we're ready to get water. So they get a 10-minute warning, and that way, especially if it's choppy, but even if it's not, we can get everybody and maximize their dive time. There's always somebody who doesn't pay attention to that or doesn't follow it. And what ends up happening is the guide and 5 of the 6 divers are just sort of bobbing around on the surface, ready to go down. The clock is already ticking because the captain is given a be back time, and we're all just waiting for that person. So if there is sort of a structure to the dive and it's not just you and your buddy are going to jump in whenever you're ready to jump in, please listen to the dive briefings and please follow the instructions because they actually exist for the benefit of everybody.
Absolutely. I would have to agree. Once again, I would have to concur with that. The dive briefing is one of the most important things. Ladies and gentlemen out there in our watery audience, what do you think is one of the most important things? Or better still, what is one of your dive etiquette peeves? Like I said, when you've got your water bottle, pinky must be erect. That's the way to drink out of your water bottle on the boat. But what is one of yours? I know that a lot of dive operations, when you actually get to the back of the boat, if you hand your fin up like this, they will drop it on your head. So you always hand it up tipped first. The other cool thing is with these things, these are the Volos, have what most of our dive guides call them thumb holes. So you can actually hold on to it and get up on the ladder at the same time, which is pretty cool, right? So, without further flapping, thank you. Hollis, what would be one of your either dive etiquettes or pet peeves in the dive world?
Hey, so definitely for me, it's when people come on the boat and they don't think about spatial awareness. And that's actually something that I think about on top of the water and below the water. You got to remember, below the water, you're now in a 360-degree world. There's going to be people above you, below you, behind you, beside you. And you got to remember that people don't have eyes on the back of their fins. So if someone kicks you in the face, it's probably not your fault, but you were probably too close to them. All right, so that's one of my pet peeves underwater that I see as well. One other thing that especially the gear on when you come on the boat, we have benches and we have places for you to slide stuff under. We have a place for your cameras to go. And sometimes our seas can be a little sporty. So we're knocking around, and especially for the crew, we're walking all around. And if I'm going to be tripping on your fin, or God knows somebody who's not comfortable in the water is tripping over your BCD, that's going to lead to broken people and possibly even broken gear. I definitely think that people are more important, but the gear is expensive. So just be aware of all the people around you. Definitely buy a gear bag. Don't let it just go all over the place, because that's how accidents happen. So please be safe and conscious divers above and under the water.
Absolutely. I think Linky absolutely understands that whole thing about your own personal bubble, don't you, Linky? He also wanted me to mention that there is actually a specialty that could help in that very thing. It's called the boat specialty. Yes, as a matter of fact, there is a specialty on boat etiquette. It's called the Patty Boat Specialty. Not only do you learn that over here is the starboard, over there is the port, up there is the bow, and back there is the stern. But you learn all other nautical terms like the poop deck. But you also learn about the things that Hollis was mentioning, how to actually enter a boat, how to store your gear. What's the best protocol of asking about where the oxygen is, which is very important. This is actually something that you can link to either the advanced course or almost any other course, but the advanced course would be a great opportunity because you could do the first dive again as one of the adventure dives, and then the second dive of the boat specialty, which would be dive number 2 or dive number 6, I suppose, but it would be dive number 2 of the boat specialty. Then you'd walk away with 2 specialties. And we do like our continuing education here at Rainbow Reef, right? Yes. Thank you, Linky. Kel, sir, tell me, are there? I'm a new diver with little experience. Well, Kimberly, very happy to help you out with some of these awesome tips. Kel, can you think of one more awesome tip that we can have?
Absolutely. Let me combine that, or better still, let me link that with the previous discussion about both pet peeves and masks, if I'm not masking too much. Especially in this time of social distancing. Ross, you mentioned that one way to defog a mask is to spit in it several times. For those of you that are still doing that, and we would prefer that you would use the reef safe defog that we provide on the boat, but if you are spitting in it, let's not use the communal rinse bucket. Okay? Big pet peeve to see somebody in the mask and then giving it the swish, swish, swish before putting it on and entering the water. So, pet peeve, dive etiquette, social distancing, health, health, health. I linked them all together. Top that.
Well, there you go. That was better than Michael Jordan and Larry Bird. Nothing but net. Excellent. Nicely done, sir. And yes, we do actually have on all of our boats, we do have the reef safe defog, which is really just the spit of 73-year-old grandmothers that sit around and knit all day long. But that's just another story. So let's see. Yes, Jim Wyatt, thank you very much. Listen to the cruise briefings. That is very important. If nothing else, that is where it all starts. David, if we could go to you, I'd like to ask when diving, we have some new divers that are on in our audience right now. What would be one of the first recommendations that you would give to a new diver? Either it could be either a specialty, it could be a gear, it could be maybe a dive site, or just something to look out for.
Oh, I would say on your early dives, certainly if you're with us, this is very easy to do, is to go with a guide, go with an instructor. Uh, will you feel more comfortable and you'll be able to build confidence. But the instructor will be more than happy to give you some tips after the dive. Say, hey, your buoyancy looked a little off. Let's sort of work on your weights a little bit, or that sort of thing. And from a course point of view, we've talked about this so many times, but I think every diver should take peak performance buoyancy. We do the first of the two dives in our advanced open water course, but I really think everyone should be doing the full peak performance buoyancy course very early. It will make you a much better diver and a much happier diver.
Absolutely. And if just to make sure that everybody understands what he's talking about is that peak performance buoyancy is a two dive specialty, which means that during your advanced course, you can actually do one of those dives as the adventure. There are 3 adventure dives in an advanced course, and then one extra dive after the advanced course, which would be the second peak performance buoyancy specialty dive. The other thing you can do is even link it to an open water course, which means that during open water dives number 2, 3, and 4, the instructor will incorporate skills from the peak performance buoyancy 1 dive, which are already incorporated into the open water course anyway. So it's not like you're doing any added stuff. Then with one extra dive, you would do the peak performance buoyancy dive number 2, and then you would be certified as both open water and peak performance buoyancy, which when you really think about it, as a well-rounded conservational diver is the way to go. And if you want to go one step further, do the Project Aware at the same time, you walk away with 3 certifications, 1 extra dive, and you're that much of a better diver. Let me ask you something, Hollis. What was the first specialty that you took, and would you recommend another?
So my first specialty I took was peak performance buoyancy. Try to say that 5 times fast. Peak performance buoyancy. Okay, and that was incredible. It became for me. And it really improved my air consumption. That was the thing I noticed most about that. I was just a lot more comfortable. I first started doing my diving in Cozumel. That's where I did all of my training, and that's was drift diving. So it was really, really important to have your buoyancy down for that. And it was so cool because you could literally just breathe in and then you'll just go right over that coral, exhale, and just keep on trucking along. We do have some really nice drift dives here. You can do all of molasses during a drift dive, or French, or even conch wall. You'll need to do your advanced do conch wall because it's a little bit deeper. So another specialty after that, you're going to be shocked at what I'm going to say, the fish ID. It's actually really good for your safety too. I was going to tie on to what your question was before about the most important thing for new divers, and especially when they're diving in a new location, is know what things are going to hurt you in the water, things that you wouldn't even expect. And the things that are beautiful as well, but are definitely for look, do not touch. One of the things that I've definitely had interaction with is a fire coral. This is also why you need to have that really good buoyancy, because fire coral, it stings and then it itches. So it's not even just that little bit of pain. It will go on for a second there. Second thing is going to be scorpion fish. And there's different variations of them all around the world, and they blend into the coral. They're one of my favorite fish to see. They're so cool. And, a little fun fact, they never leave 5 meters. Anyways, so those are the important things that I want to
hear. We want to hear. Wait, yeah. We want to hear. They never do what?
So a scorpion fish, where it's born, it will never be more than 15 feet away from where it was born, which is really, really neat. So if you see a scorpion fish, you don't see it the next day, just kind of look around that area, just like you're doing a search and rescue. Another great specialty. Not only good for finding fish, but for finding scorpion fish. So those are my favorite things. Also, be aware if you ever go to New Zealand or South Pacific, crown of thorns. That's another one. Beautiful, but deadly. All right, thank you. And lionfish. We got lionfish here too that are also venomous. We don't want them here, but we have.
Or the spotted octopus down in Australia and everything. The blue-ringed octopus. Very small, very beautiful. Mm-hmm. Shh, we don't talk about serpents in front of me. No.
I have a pet snake. I'm going to bring it on next time.
And moving on to Cal. Cal, sir, it's been so long since we've seen you. I'd love to hear a little something. Give us a dive story that you've had. I know that you are a prolific diver. Your dive resume, as a matter of fact, is on a loop at a local restaurant here. That every time that we go out to dinner, we seem like we're always going out to dinner with you. Give us a scuba snack of maybe one of those things that you filmed, or something else that you'd just like to share with us, would you?
Well, again, in the interest of linking, let's talk a little bit about a pet peeve, a little bit about a fish ID story, and a little bit about some dive etiquette. On this particular dive, I was leading in Key West. I brought the divers over onto the reef, and we spotted a scorpion fish. Now, because of the camouflage, they're a little hard to spot, so I gathered everyone around and fanned the water just enough to make it spread so that you can see the multicolor in it that is so beautiful. Of course, we don't touch it. And I wanted to illustrate why we don't touch it. So holding everyone back, I gave the sign of danger, showing that we do not touch. And then I was about to point to the venomous spines, again keeping everyone back, when one of the divers in the group, disregarding all briefing ahead of time, decided that he was going to show off the way he can handle a scorpion fish by grabbing it in the mouth. That caused it to immediately back up into my outstretched finger, and I took the spine in my pointing finger. I immediately showed that diver another finger, not the one that had been injured, and from there we continued on the dive. I would like to point out that the venom in a scorpion fish is not fatal. One just wishes that it was.
See that. Not to put a finer point on it, folks, but make sure that in your briefings you tell people, no, scorpion fish. So yes, thank you for that scuba snack. We are definitely going to have to double dip that one. And now that also gives us another understanding of why we call kelp stumpy. David, sir, would you like to share something that maybe you could link a pet peeve or a link or a dive story with us?
Sure. Actually, one of our great sharers of thoughts and ideas, Larry Milliken, who's on all our here with us on all our shows, actually, and I would just like to echo it because the other thing is, if especially if you're a newer diver or if you have, you might not know exactly how much weight that you need. That's okay. That we all learn. But please do your buoyancy check, your weight check, as soon as you jump in and you're hanging on to the line. So rather than waiting until everyone's going to go down and then suddenly realize that you don't have the right weight on, and then that delays the whole dive. And this is actually not only just an etiquette issue, but I have been in situations that happen, and that's exactly when the nurse shark or the reef shark swims by. This is not a made up thing. I've seen this happen more than once, and everybody's sort of either on the surface looking at the shark pointing and but then we're all waiting for the buoyancy check and for the swapping the weights out on the boat. So you get to see more if you're ready to go when everyone's ready to go.
Absolutely. I think it certainly seems like we cannot say enough about buoyancy, about neutral buoyancy, peak performance buoyancy, proper weighting. I actually saw a gentleman that tried to jump in the water with a back plate and a 120 cubic foot steel tank on his back on his single weave, and he asked for 20 pounds to the dive crew. To which I said, "Sir, are you going to be diving in a dry suit? I hope." And he said, "No, this rash guard and board shorts." And I said, "Sir, I don't think you're going to need that 20 pounds." And he was quite insistent that he was going to need that. And I suggested that he may have just purchased a set of doubles and broken them down, because I noticed his other tank had a valve on the other side, the right side. And he said, "Yes, as a matter of fact, I did. I just got these on eBay." Great. Did you check it out in the pool first? No. So once again, with new gear, you do want to at least check it before you get in the water. I suggested that if he were to jump in with 20 pounds, that we would be doing a rescue on him, and suggested that perhaps he lessen that amount. I actually told him that I would pay personally for a full week of diving if he needed more than 4 pounds, because I didn't think he needed anything with the steel tank and the steel backplate. He insisted on 6, and he still sank like a rock, but at least he got back and we didn't have to rescue him. So yes, definitely check your gear out before you go on that tropical trip, because you never know what kind of trouble you can get into with gear that you are unaware of or don't know how it works, especially when it comes to weight and heavy gear. We've got time for one more. Hollis, why don't you wrap it up with another story for us? It doesn't have to be a pet peeve. It could be one of those critter stories that you like talking to us about.
I do have a pet peeve, though. So I know. So this is one thing. I don't think a lot of people know what the Lost Diver Protocol is. And a lot of people think if they get separated from their buddy or their dive master, their guide, that they should find another one. Very important thing about this. The ocean is not, it can be difficult to navigate underwater, and that's why we have a navigation specialty, and that's also why we have a self-reliant specialty as well. If you're going off to find your buddy, or if you think you're going off to find another guide, you might be going actually to Timbuktu or Cuba. So that's something that I tell people in my briefing. The diver protocol is this: you stay in one position for 1 minute, you look around in a circle, and then if you don't see anyone coming up to you, your guide or your buddy, what you're going to do is you're going to slowly ascend, looking and listening for boats, because we do dive in boat traffic areas, and if you are so far away, maybe you drift away, you definitely need to be aware of your surroundings. Once you get up, it's amazing. The boat's right there. Oh my gosh, what seemed like so difficult and so far away underwater, oh my gosh, you can see it on the surface. So you can be talking to the captain, and the captain will say, hey, actually, I see your group right there. And then you know what's actually more likely going to happen? Your guide's going to come up and say, hey, come swim this way, or I'll go meet you down there. They'll know the protocol for that, which is what we're there for. Let us do our jobs. Let us guide you. Let us make you guys have a safe and fun time. So that is my biggest pet peeve. And because you know what? If we don't find you down there and you're lost, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up and I'm going to assume something's really, really wrong. And I'm going to ask everybody to come up and come back in. I'm going to assume that something happened underwater or that you're really, really lost. And then most likely what the captain's going to do is going to call everyone back just because you didn't follow this little fun fact about diver protocol. So stay with your guide, stay with your buddy, dive within the time that we give you at the reef. Within that really generous hour, sometimes a little bit more, and just don't be that person. Don't be that person that doesn't listen to the briefing and doesn't follow the diver protocol. So that's it, and that way I can show you cool stuff underwater too. All right, it's a little positive. Thank you.
Absolutely, and again, once again, to harp more on the importance of the positive, which is that dive briefing. The briefing from the captain, the briefing from your dive guide, is to listen to that. Yes, it's true. We've all been on boats a lot, or some of us have been on boats a lot of times. And when they start calling out the names and everything, you think that you can talk to other people because, oh, I've heard this briefing before. But, there may be something new. Maybe somebody hasn't heard the briefing before. Maybe you're distracting somebody that is trying to listen to the briefing, and because that other person thinks that you're cooler than they are because you're a Joe diver, but you're taking away the opportunity for that person to actually listen to that briefing. So go ahead. Doesn't take that long. Listen to the briefing. Besides, it's always fun to see what everybody's signal is for different fish and briefings. I've seen all kinds of things, and maybe next time we'll talk about signals for fishes. So let us do our very last scuba snack. Just shout out our favorite, and I want you guys in the audience to send us your favorite dive sites here in Key Largo. And if you haven't been to Key Largo yet, let us know where your favorite dive site is, because of course we're in quarantine, which means we need to talk scuba. We need to dip our chip into the scuba dip and get our scuba snacks, and we got to get our snack on so we can double dip too. So let us know. So David, I'm getting all riled up. I want to dive. David, give us a dive site here, please.
I will give you Spanish Anchor on Molasses Reef. It's a very, very cool anchor. It's a neat site, and it's also very close to Aquarium, which a lot of people have mentioned on this show, which is one of the most beautiful places. So you can get 2 for 1 on that dive.
Absolutely. Love Spanish Anchor, and it's actually you can tell that it's Spanish because it has the mustache. Kel, how about yourself?
Wreck of the Duane. I've been diving it for more than 20 years. It's been sitting intact since 1987. There is a lot of growth on it. There is always something new to see. It's a smaller wreck, but it's still my favorite wreck site here in Key Largo.
Wreck of the Duane, folks. You heard it right from the man himself. It is a fantastic wreck. Love diving it. Oddly enough, don't get a lot of chances to dive it. So if you can, come down, dive with us. As soon as we open up that gate, then we're going to do it. How about you, Hollis? Give us a dive site here.
Easily, City of Washington. That is one of my favorite dives ever. Even when I go fun diving, that's where I always want to go. The growth on that wreck, since it's so old, is incredible. And I always see little baby reef sharks around there. And I am sucker for any wreck that's right next to a reef. So you get the best of both worlds. So you can go check out the wreck. It's nice photographs, these mold craters. I always see a lot of flamingo tongues there. And then you can go hang out in that reef there. If you go off the side in the sand, you go right there. And that's just amazing to see all the time. So so that's my favorite. It's on Elbow Reef. There's whenever we go there, it's a really big reef. So You can go from one side, and then it's great because it's a small surface interval. So you can just hop right on over to the other side as well. And that's what I also love about our dive sites here. You can do the Dwayne, which is like super deep. And then next thing you know, you're on Molasses Reef, jumping right back in. Don't have to get all cold or don't have to get seasick or anything like that. It can just get you right back in the water, which I love. It's so nice. Yeah. So thank you guys.
Excellent. Well, once again, to our lovely panel, thank you for joining us. Thank you for sharing your scuba snacks. Thank you for sharing some of your wisdom. We've got some wisdom. We've got some scuba snacks that are worth munching on. So we hope that you've gotten some. By all means, let us hear your pet peeves, your dive etiquette ideas. Let us know those. Also, let us know if you're interested in doing that peak performance buoyancy or the project to wear when we get here. Remember, we're doing a project to wear almost every week right now because we can. We've got Zoom, so we can teach, and another opportunity to talk diving. So once again, thank you all for joining us. We really appreciate it. So don't forget to tune in next time for Dive, Dive, Dive. In the meantime, stay safe, stay covered up. Thank you for joining us all.
Bye, everyone.